Everywhere you look, there's someone sleeping in some shop doorway.
A fixture of our streets, big issue vendors know what's happening in our towns and cities. This is Britain through their eyes. I'm Laura Kelly, digital producer at The Big Issue. Recently, our vendors told us that Kent was struggling in the wake of the pandemic and a decade of austerity. I went to investigate. With arty shops, lively bars, and the Turner Contemporary Gallery sitting over sandy beaches, Margate is an attractive place for a weekend break. It's also notable for its poverty-based polarisation, with people divided into extremes of wealth and deprivation, and very few people in the middle.
Last year, when I split up with my ex, I was on the streets for a week, almost. It was like 7 days, but I couldn't do the 7th night. Because it was sunny and hot, I was like, I'd be all right, just like I'm camping. Nah, no, I've never experienced hunger so much. Seriously, I don't know how they do it, I really don't.
Mark lives in Cliftonville, in the east of Margate. He sells The Big Issue in nearby Canterbury. He is one of many people in precarious accommodation who've been helped by The Big Issue.
Homelessness, as we all know, is slightly messy and it's complex, and the number of people who are street homeless, if you look at the figures, are obviously, it's a bit of a scattered picture. But the reality is that the amount of people sofa surfing or in temporary accommodation or unstable accommodation is just massive, 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 massive. Because you don't see it as much as you did, say, 30 years ago. I think there is this feeling perhaps it's not as much of a problem, but it absolutely is.
Chris is on the front line of The Big Issue's operation, so he speaks to people every day who are experiencing hard times.
There are so many people who are either at risk of homelessness, who are currently homeless. You know, I see it more and more, and I hear about it more and more when you speak to people, and especially like working people who maybe have a part-time job at a supermarket or whatever, and just not being able to make ends meet in any way whatsoever.
In Margate, the housing situation has been impacted by the culture-based regeneration of the town.
Margate has had this huge influx of Londoners in the last few years. I must confess to being one of them. But what this has achieved is it used to be a very reasonable priced place to live. People came here from London because they could afford to, artists and musicians came here because they could afford to live in Margate. It's now become exactly what happened to Hackney and other places like that, where so many people have now come down here that you cannot buy a house for love nor money.
Like many seaside towns, Margate has fallen victim to the Airbnb effect. There are many more properties available for tourists to rent for a few nights than there are for locals to rent as their home. When I checked, there were over 300 places listed on Airbnb, but just 14 on Rightmove.
Airbnb is a huge problem. I think, cities like Barcelona have banned Airbnb, and rightly so. I think nobody can find a home in this area.
During the lockdown, Darren started a food bank. She now runs a community shop in Margate, providing low-priced food and household goods for people who find it hard to meet the daily cost of living. She appealed to visitors to Margate to think about what's going on behind the picture postcard.
It looks great on the surface, and for a lot of people it is great, but it's making life even more difficult for people for whom life already was difficult. Please continue to come and visit, but don't forget what you see is just the surface of what's going on.
For his part, Mark has a clear idea of one solution to the housing crisis.
Build houses, build more houses.